be found on my computer, so all I've got's from last month. Calls for service, 1,621, 122 offense reports, 55 arrests, 35 accidents, 129 citations. Regarding overtime for the month of August, 14,237, year-to-date 82,663. And I'm quite sure that's less than last year. We had 22 commercial false alarms and 6 residential. And I have one legislative request. You might recall we solicited donations for our 50th anniversary, and that was resting in the general fund. We had a total of $950. I'd like to ask you to appropriate that $950 from the general fund and transfer it to police office supplies so that we can pay for our 50th anniversary photographs and frames.
Do you have any questions? Dick, Doug? Okay.
That's all I have.
That's it. All right, does anybody have any questions for the chief? Okay.
Wow.
5:32, we'll move on to Chief Huggins.
Anytime you want to take John Ruff's committee, you can go right ahead.
Can you beat that?
Beat that.
Can you beat that, Huggins? Come on.
Okay.
There's a cold day in the forecast. Yeah. Oh, she's recording. Doc on it. We'll edit that out of there, will you? Oh, well. I'm an adult.
Are you ready? August
We're ready.
statistics, they should have received those over the email. I don't think anything much has changed. 32 versus 32 last year, 314. We're down a little bit on fire runs. We're up on EMS runs, 178. Transports are down slightly, but this last month was a little busier. Mutual aids 32 to receive 26. Breakdown of that, of course, that's Licking Township Fire
Hey,
Company.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
when we talked at the end of last week, we talked about why the EMS run number is up, but that the transports are down. You want to share that with council?
I think I referred to.
You were talking about getting the call and then getting called off.
I mean, that happened a couple times a day. We get dispatched with New York City, and New York City sent us over on Tamarack today, and before we were dispatched, they were going en route, and they canceled them. Then they dispatched Granville on the same call, since it was, they thought Granville was closer. Then they canceled Granville, and they sent Medic 4 or whatever. So it's
Who's doing this? The 911 center?
911 center. Some of that, Mayor, goes back a long way, and instead of checking with the units and wasting time to, sometimes they can't make contact with them, they gotta call in the emergency room and talk to their crews that are there at the ER. They just go ahead and they get a unit started. And then that unit marks in service at the hospital, so they cancel us and all. So I think that's got a lot to do with it.
Okay. And then that counts as a run
That
on
does
this
count as-
statistic, even though we haven't actually physically gone to the location.
That's correct. But I mean, if we were halfway there, if we were pulling up on the scene and they canceled us, it still counts as a run.
Okay.
And I included in the packet tonight just runs dispatched and runs received. Whatever anybody wants these tonight with the same cover sheet. But that, I think that's got a little bit to do with what's going on there. But let's see. So mutual aids given and received. The legislative requests, and this stemmed from last month when I forgot to fill out a legislative request. I have one, this was the Shriner donation, $6,944.07. That says, 92. There's a discrepancy there. I believe that to be the accurate number, 6944.92. I took that off the letter that the Shriners gave us. But anyway, this was earmarked for pediatric treatment bags, whatever, called garage bags for small kids and stuff, for pediatric emergencies, and one for each unit.
Just wanna make sure.
Pretty expensive, but that's what the money's been spent for. We've already received the money, it was deposited in the general fund, and I'm asking it to be transferred out and put into the EMS supplies.
Dick? No. Doug? Anybody have any questions about that? Okay.
Monthly report, wages, 67,298. For last year, 30,000 overtime, total 167 versus 64,000 this year. Overtime was 25,000, total 159,413.31. So down a little bit over this time last year. Engine 2, Medic 9 have been repaired, exhaust system on engine 2. Medic 9's had some work electronics. We're looking at air pack, of course, replacement with our federal grant monies. And I may approach you next month, and may pull a little bit of money out of Fire Levy 1. The grant to put a new air pack on every seat requires 21, and I think the pack grant will buy about 19 of them, so we'll need to.
What's it cost?
About 5,000 a pack. Now, we've already got bottles for that, and that's $6.99 a piece, and also probably $3,900.
Is that what
like that?
take inside of the fire?
Yes, a breathing system, and this meets all the new 2013. It's got a heads-up display in it. I mean, that's just required now on air packs.
How many total, Chief?
I'm sorry?
How many total airplanes?
Probably request money for an additional 3. But I'll bring that up next month.
Okay.
And I should have it in the budget. Warren McCord's plugging along. Still going through physical therapy. Today was a bad day for internet. And it's not on here, Mayor. I came in last night, it went down, and long story short, finally got Alpha Link in, and it wasn't Time Warner. Ended up being the server. Died a horrible death. And,
Oh, okay.
so anyway, hopefully, put one power supply in instead of the 2 that are in there now. About $275 to fix it, $2,500 to replace it. So I went with the 275 for right now.
Good call.
Yeah, I think so.
Don't break it next time.
Yeah, I know, it's, yeah. So anyway, well, I'll tell you, you don't know how valuable that is until you don't have it. It just kind of shuts things down. But okay, so anyway, under training regional fire schools, Muskingum County's coming up and all that, and we're encouraging people to go, especially the volunteers. It's a great time for them to get some good training for a low cost. There's another one up in Warren that I may attend myself, but
To maintain your fire and paramedic cards, do you have to meet any sort of a continuing education requirement?
oh boy, yeah. Yes, Mayor, hazmat, you gotta have 24 hours a year. Fire, every 3 years, you've gotta have 54 hours. You've gotta have 85 hours plus active CPR, ACLS cards and all that.
Will
Every 3 years.
will these help to meet those requirements?
Any of these classes that we do in our online training, which is the majority of the stuff, plus our Wednesday nights, fire-related classes, the fire chief could sign off on anything that he deems appropriate, so.
Not just for the
When we
volunteers,
talk around the pop
for
machine,
the full-timers, for the full-timers too?
Yes,
Okay.
on the fire side, on the EMS side, that has to be a sanction through an accredited learning institution. And CTEC, you know, Air Evac, whatever, they come in and give us a lecture and such, so. But yeah, there are 34 hours, I believe, for, and I don't quote me on this one, but fire inspectors have to have so many. And this is something that they came out with several years ago, and just about everything now has to have continuing ed. And if you don't meet those hours, when I come due January 15th of 2014, and I've got to have all the EMS hours, fire and all that, or they'll pull my credentials. I won't have a fire card or a paramedic card, fire inspector, fire instructor, you know, all that. So it's a little tougher now than, so that's why we do a lot of training. There is a pipeline safety. I brought this to the mayor's attention, and it's open to first responders and local public officials. They're not opening it up to the general public, but if any of you would like to attend, it's out at Heath. It's on the 26th. They provide dinner and then a presentation, and then it's just kind of a statewide to what gas line, pipeline, emergency response, and how's that working out? That's a Thursday. Isn't it?
Thursday, what time?
It starts at 6 o'clock as dinner, 6:30 the presentation. So I was telling the mayor, they do it right, and they've always got little trinkets, things that they pass out or whatever. I think you've been to some of these. But anyway, so for the date, it's the 26th. Starts at 6, Hebron Fire Department, but they provide dinner and then lecture, and I'm sure a PowerPoint type thing after the fact. But it's I've been to a couple of them. They're pretty educational. Anybody? I know, Deb, that's what you want to do with your evening.
I was so excited I could hardly sit still.
So anyway, I'll give that to you. I can print more. Let's see. We talked last month about the EMS software. I told you I'd give you I could give you an update even in your file or whatever, but we did not have a meeting until this last Thursday. The mayor, Eileen, Warren McCord, and myself sat down, and he had gotten at least half of the contracts and such, and we talked about the software problems and the costs. And I mean, it was educational. We're gonna take a serious look at whether we continue with, one way or the other, we're gonna have some sort of a reporting system. But this is kind of expensive. But per the contracts that they currently have, we were only given the EMS side of it, but it spells it out quite clear that there would be a charge. Now this was a blank contract, but it was $3 based on 1,700 EMS calls a year or whatever, so it gave us an estimated. So yeah, we do have to pay as part of this.
Per call.
Per call, EMS. So.
And we've been doing so for how long?
That one I don't know, and I have not, you didn't look that up either, did you?
What's that?
As far as how long are we into this contract?
No.
Part of what came to light was we discussed, you know, what was required and what isn't, and some of the things that we were under the impression that we had to report. We can, well, here's a book, the trauma reporting, the stuff that I was under the impression, I think the mayor was too, that we have to report this stuff. And we really don't have to report it, but when we stop reporting some of this information, we lose grants. But so far in the last several years, all we've lost is about $2,500 in grant monies. So.
What would we have saved if we hadn't reported?
I'm sorry?
What would we have saved if we hadn't reported?
Well, right now, we're paying about $453 a month for the software, and then an additional based on $3.12 a call. That varies from month to month based on the number of calls per month. But it runs on average about $400 additional dollars. So we're looking at what, $4,800 a month? We're spending, excuse me, a year, $4,800 a year to get $2,500 in grant money. So that's not a real wise.
That's not a good, not a good investment.
We talked about that. We talked about whether or not, see, okay, talking about two different software pieces here. One is for EMS runs, one's for fire runs. We get charged for both. Fire runs, we do have to report. Correct, Chief?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said fire runs, we do have to report.
Yes,
Correct?
that's correct.
There's no getting around that. Be it this software tool or another, we need something that can produce the reporting need for fire runs. For EMS runs, MedBill does not require all of the information that our software produces for a report that can then go to the state. There's probably 80 some different points of information that the state requires in reporting of EMS calls. MedBill needs about 20 or 25. So we were discussing, and we'll discuss later in the future, is there a way that we could export to MedBill a data file that they could then import that just contains these points of information?
The 25 that they made.
Correct. I mean, I brought up the idea of an Excel format data file that we can send to MedBill, and could they then take that data file and import the data into their system so that they don't have to keystroke everything like if we were doing this on paper? That's a question that is yet to be determined. If that can't be done, and it requires software to just send them the 20-some points of information, this software or some other software, it might be beneficial for us to go ahead and continue to report to the state so that we at least have a shot at that grant money. If we have to spend money on EMS billing software, EMS reporting software, then we might as well, my thinking is, we might as well give ourselves a chance at the grant money from the state. If we don't need software, other than, like I said, something like Excel or something like that, to send MedBill the information that they need, then that's something that we need to explore and give serious consideration to, because yeah, it makes no sense to spend $5,000 on EMS billing software to give ourselves the opportunity to apply for up to $2,500 worth of grant money. That's not guaranteed each year. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
I'm just saying, for the most part, we have consistently gotten that money every year, but it has come down. At one time, it was about $7,000. The other thing, Jeff, is, and that's just part of it, there's a monthly $452, $53 fee for the fire and the EMS program, and then the other charge is the $3 a run, because they're actually keeping our information now.
I clearly remember the monthly. I honestly Apparently, I'm not the only
I don't
one.
remember the call.
I don't recall the per call fee. And when the contract was
When we were talking about, I don't
presented,
remember.
negotiated, settled, anything. Does anybody else remember
I don't
the
think.
per call fee on top of the monthly fee? I really don't.
That being said, and I believe Warren brought that in and explained that to you at the time. I don't exactly know where I was, but I'll claim.
Maybe the whole council checked out for that presentation, but
Yeah, okay.
Do you recall it? Does anybody mark it?
But
Now,
I really
When you
don't.
say calls, that's on this.
the runs.
The runs.
The run
Runs.
fees, the run fee.
Right. So like you say, when Dirk calls us and calls us off, just real quick like that, we
Just-
get charged $3 regardless.
Yeah, how does that work?
No, there shouldn't be a charge on that. We're getting those numbers from 904. This would be runs that were actually processed and turned into the system.
So are they only transports? Or do we also report runs where we go and just help somebody up? We report those too, don't we?
Yeah, now, if we go to the scene
Uh-huh.
and, we go to the scene and assist somebody.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the problem with some of this software that isn't geared.
Yeah.
I help you to your chair and you're not hurt, you tell me, you don't want your vitals checked or whatever, you just want to help back into the chair. It won't let you close out until you have vital signs on the patient and all that, and it gets sometimes, that's another problem. But
So not every
I can't give you
EMS
still
run
can't give you a good answer
is
on that one.
reported. Not every
That's
EMS,
correct.
okay. Which is why when they drew up the contract and they came up with an average of 1,700 runs per year, and it's right on the contract agreement, they were taking they were looking back at our past and coming up with the average number of runs that we were reporting. That's how they kind of came up with that figure. So,
That run from Tamarack, there won't be for New York City today, there will not be a report processed. However, county fire, once a month, when they send me the run tabs, because we were dispatched on that,
yeah.
that will count in the report, but there was not a report filed on. Does that make sense?
Yep, I see. Does that make sense, Tim? What?
I think.
It just seems like it's kind of fuzzy math.
I think that might be.
What's a
where
run and
we
what's
got
not a
mixed
run?
up. That
Run here,
the
not run here.
1,700 runs per year equaled $5,100. And that might be what we were presented, was a full figure of 5,100, not saying that there was $3 a call. And that might be how we got, because I don't ever remember them saying $3 a call.
I
Just excellent memory was that we had some questions and we were gonna get information back.
And it was to get you the information.
The original
Warren
presentation.
was gonna,
I'm sorry.
Warren was gonna get you.
Thanks. I'll give you money later.
I had a question, it didn't relate to that, but someone asked me, and now I couldn't recall it. Do you, or the law director, or Eileen Medfield, do they determine who can't pay, or who does that?
The city actually makes that determination.
Yeah, what happens is, if somebody who has been transported and then billed, if for some reason they feel as though they're unable to pay, they work with MedBill and complete a financial disclosure statement. And it's, there's a similar type of form that the hospital would require be filled out if they don't have the money to pay the hospital's charges. So this financial disclosure statement comes in. I haven't gotten one in a while, knock on wood. But the financial disclosure statement is sent from MedBill to me. I review it. In a lot of cases, I may reduce the charges. I might set them up on a payment plan, like $10 a month, $15 a month, $20 a month, something like that, depending on what I'm seeing as their situation. Now, there have been times, I can probably count on my hands in the 4 years, almost 4 years now that I've been mayor, there have been times where you could just see you'd be, trying to squeeze blood out of a turnip, and there's just no point in it. But usually, what we'll do is either like a reduction in the charges, or maybe some sort of a payment schedule, some sort of a payment plan set up, and then MedBill handles that. MedBill will bill them, $15 a month if that's what they agree to do, and then they have to keep to that agreement. There are some instances where, our attorney steps in and they have to, they're having times where that's actually gone, to court.
And that's usually once the insurance company has issued a check to the insured party, and they cash that check, put the money in their pocket or whatever,
Yeah.
and don't.
Not all insurance companies will pay MedBill directly. One or two insurance companies choose to send the check to their insured. Now, what happens is the insured gets $500 check. Woo! And then they get the bill from MedBill saying that $500 check needs to be applied to this. Sometimes they've blown the $500 before they get that bill. Well, that's their tough luck, because the insurance company, in sending them the check, notified them that that was the purpose of it. So they choose to spend that money on something else.
So,
Tough.
that being said, there's still some questions, Jeff, that have not been answered, and we still don't have all the answers. Warren should be back, knock on wood, within the next couple of weeks. Talking to him today, hopefully within a week or so. So maybe by next safety, we'll have him in here, we'll have researched this some more, because this meeting brought to the table a lot of questions and some things that we weren't aware of at the time. We're taking a look. Still don't know, haven't asked Lynn to pull the contracts and haven't made contact with the company. As I said, Warren got a copy for the mayor and I of generic contract, but we may sever ties with this company first of the year. I just know in the meeting with the mayor, Warren and all, it's like, well, could we kind of do an electronic paper report? Well, then, you get into signatures and all that, and when Warren's comment was theoretically, well, that just doesn't. So we're just gonna have to see where this is going, but it's expensive, and we're gonna look for alternative
More
ways,
economical
maybe.
options.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
More economical.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is that we do have agreement in place to pay for the charges that we are getting billed. MedBill has been, I believe, more than helpful
Oh, yeah.
in the process of us implementing this software and paying for many of the aspects of that implementation out of their pocket. But we do have this agreement in place. We are being billed, I think, correctly based on the agreement that we have in place. What we need to evaluate moving forward, and I think that evaluation process began this past Thursday, is this the right solution for us moving forward? What are our options of alternate ways of getting done what needs to get done with MedBill for the EMS billing, while at the same time making sure that we're not paying more than we need to for a potential benefit that, you know, may or may not happen. So that process needs to continue to evolve.
What's the term of the contract?
I'm sorry?
What's the term of the contract?
That we're not sure.
We don't even know the term of the contract.
No.
I gotta get a copy of the contract from Lynn.
So, bear with us a little longer. Anything else on that? Because I'll just tell you I don't know.
I mean, I think that's the update, that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's about as far as we can go right now with the information that was presented to us so far. Under new business, Newark Township's gonna borrow our fire prevention trailer on the 6th of September, the opening day of Fire Prevention Week. They did that last year, and they said we borrowed Newark City's for a number of years, so we can do it. It'll be close, and one of our guys is gonna run it up so they can utilize it. And fire prevention open house will be October 12th at Heath Station 1 from 1 to 5. And other than that, that's all I have right now.
Anybody have any questions for the chief? Okay. We're adjourned. 7:01.
Yeah, so that's 7 o'clock.
He said they're borrowing on September 6th, he's talking about October 7th.
There, did I say September? I stand corrected. October.
I talked to David
6th.
on Thursday.
Thanks.
We have lunch.
October the 6th, the fire prevention trailer goes to Newark Township.
If you have
And our open house is Saturday the 12th.
committee
And I think the Ohio State
president
game's
got
away.
you guys are both on the finance committee, 2 out of 3
Yeah.
would require.
How is the new
Dave,
jail?
That was what he said.
Dave Morris, I got that.
You like it?
Email from him telling me this. Well, I asked him a question about members of the meeting, members being present for the meeting.
She doesn't hang out at the water cooler on the second floor, the ice machine, though, I ever see her at.
The meeting.
Every day.
Oh, yeah.
Second floor,
Yeah.
first day.
We're talking about
2 or 3
we're talking
hours.
about something else.
Takes one